Hello, Chris here with another episode of the Make It podcast. And here with me today, as usual, is my good friend and co-founder, Nicholas Buggs, and our esteemed guest, and actually previous guest,
right.
and now joining us again after a little bit of time, the one and only Adam Schartoff. Adam, Nick, say hello.
Hi, guys. Great to be back on the podcast. Great to see your faces and hear your voices. Thank you for inviting me back on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. We
Likewise.
appreciate it.
Yeah. And maybe you edit this part, but thank you for coming on to Film Wax.
Well, we love Film Wax.
That's right.
Film Wax is what introduced us to you in the first place. So, you know, it's our distinct pleasure, and hello to your audience and to, everybody that's been supporting you over. Are you at 1,000 episodes yet or no?
No.
790.
No.
790.
790 is not like something to
Dude.
sneeze at. Like
No,
that's
no.
incredible.
Yeah, no, it's something. Yeah, getting close to 800. Trying to find that special guest for 800. It could just be you guys. I'd be very happy with that idea. Actually.
Hey.
But then we'd have to wait months because I only do it once.
Right, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, I mean, I think it's incredible. I don't know what podcaster has the most episodes total. My intuition is that it's Joe Rogan because he's doing 3 a week for this long.
Right.
I think he's in the 2,000 range or something like that. Jason Calacanis has one that he does every day.
Wow.
Yeah. Anybody who's podcasting every day, there's a guy, the first podcast I ever listened to was this podcast called Mac OS Ken. And it's hosted by this guy who actually is from Nashville. His name's Ken Ray, but he moved to Buffalo, New York. And all he does
He's like, what?
Ken, what are you doing, man? It's a nice town, but Jesus.
Well, it is
Buffalo.
Yeah, it is funny because like sometimes he will get on and just sort of make a joke about being depressed.
Wow.
It's like, well, you're in Buffalo, but no, I'm just kidding. All the people,
I know, right?
It's a lovely place. But Ken is incredible. He's been doing a daily 15 to 20 minute podcast for Mac investors, right? Apple investors, and everything Apple since podcasting began. He has to have 4,000, 5,000 episodes.
Dude,
by now.
If you're podcasting that much, I'm sorry, there's a different name for it. I think you got to call it plogging. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Right? You know, it's like totally different.
Hold on, I'm going to write that down. I think you just invented a new term.
Yeah, man.
That's good.
It's plogging. He's totally plogging.
Plogging 1.0.
There you go.
And it kind of has to be the kind of show where people can drop in and drop out. And that's something when you're creating it and keeping in mind as you create each episode, because I mean, it's impossible. Even if I was an Apple investor, I mean, just tuning in every day is kind of like a tall order. So
I do it for the most part. So I'm that, he found his audience in me. Like I know so much about Apple. It's ridiculous just because of him, and the professionalism he has is unreal. I mean, it is so well put together. He does make money doing it, right? Like he has branding, or not branding, but advertising. Like he doesn't do it for free or anything. So it's impressive what he pulls off. I think Calacanis is even more impressive because his are hour-long dailies. But, well, they're equally impressive. I'll tell you why. Ken has to produce his. It's just him reading the news. There's research. So guys like us, we know what it really takes to do a good podcast day in, day out.
Yeah, right.
Where there's too many people that think it's just literally picking up your phone, making a recording, and then publishing it. That is not going to be sustainable. That's why 70% of podcasts aren't active, right? What Calacanis does is he brings on people he knows in tech for the most part, and that fills up the hour. So he's able to just talk to these people about technology and businesses and things like that. I'm not saying he doesn't research, but he has a whole team. He has producers. He has resources. He's a very wealthy person. And so I think even though it's longer time on the podcast, he's sort of able to do it easier than Ken probably puts together his thing. So kudos.
How old, you know how old he is?
Calacanis, he's got to be 52, 53.
Okay.
And then
Still
Ken's
kind
probably
of
the
on the
same
young
age.
side.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, if you got a lot of family obligations.
No, he's got a wife. He's got
You're
two
speaking
daughters.
to a divorced man, so
Oh wow. Yeah.
He's like everything. Well, context, right? But you've been doing a lot of work, a lot of great work, man. A lot of 790 episodes, having great conversations with not only one filmmaker at a time, but sometimes you have multiple on talking to you and just kind of managing those conversations. I mean, you've done a lot of work over a lot of years with a variety of family obligations, right? Because how old is your son now?
Well, thanks, Nick. My son is turning 20 in a few months.
Wow.
So yeah, but
Christ on a cracker.
Yeah, it's really something. The show, though, the reason I can do it, it's the biggest part, of course, is finding people and doing the research. But, it is kind of a very casual, seemingly casual, and most of the times it can be quite casual in practice as well. But it's kind of also manageable because it's not scripted. I don't put a lot of production value into it. I try to have a clean audio. Obviously, I do the best I can. But I really make it as seamless as possible. You guys, I really have to give you some kudos because you guys you have a whole team now. It's great, and I think, in turn, the work can generally pay off for putting that kind of time and effort into it, at least hopefully so. And mine, I kind of, I'll be transparent with you, years ago when I was starting off and I was in the earlier days, there just weren't that many podcasts, right? You know that. Yep. So, and there were, and let's say, whatever that number looks like, you can take a very small percentage. How many of those were doing interview format, film oriented podcast? Maybe me and one other. I don't know. I don't think there were.
I don't even think Alex Ferrari was around then that early. Okay. Maybe
2011.
Yeah.
But
I think that's when Ferrari started.
But as time, so I had earlier on, I could find, given my size audience, I didn't have a following. So I had to create an audience from nothing. And in doing that, I was able to realize, okay, so my sponsors are going to be like film resources, film industry type companies. And, so I focused primarily on that because that's where I felt I could, arrange relationships, so, but even that just died off because of the pure the sheer number of podcasts that everybody has multiple podcasts, in fact. So it's I kind of gave up on that, but that was liberating too. We can talk about that or not, but that was also a liberating thing for me too.
Yeah, I do wonder because I've never told Nick this.
Dangerous water.
I've never told him this. There are times where I wake up and I think, how am I going to make this as fun as it used to be? And it's just moments. I think that's natural. That's human, right? Like you go through that in a marriage, you go through that in a friendship, you go through that at work. Sure. Just like, oh man, this is feeling more like work than play. And we're not even at 400 episodes. And I don't feel that way consistently. And that's why I'm still sitting here in front of you. So I'm just wondering, how do you beat that back? You're at 790. And by the way, Nick, plogging, it just occurs to me, sounds like something you do to a farm animal.
Yeah, please don't. I know. Right. See, I knew where you were going to go. Come back.
Yeah,
come back.
Nick is very sensitive. Chris, please.
You're right.
Behave yourself.
Thank you, Adam.
You plug that goat. Leave that goat alone.
I knew goats would manage to get into this conversation one way or the other.
Exactly. It was inevitable.
Farm animals.
But yeah, so to Chris's question, how do you manage those things? Again, we're at 400. We're like half of where you are, so you've been through it.
Well, I don't think there's really any difference between 400 and 800 episodes. We've all gone through the exact same cycles, challenges, as you described, Chris. Cycles of enthusiasm, waning enthusiasm, return to. It's just. So I don't think there's really any difference between 400 episodes. Once you've passed that kind of number, you've gone through just about everything. Yeah. I just lost another regular guest of mine. She passed away a couple of months ago, and that's also part of it. It's kind of like, amazing. Like, I'm getting people on now who, like, whose children are coming up and becoming filmmakers, doing it. So there is something so amazing that I will say is what's unique about lasting this long and having people on so many, times coming back on. That's a treat to me. And, but I do go through periods of like fatigue for sure.
How do you get out of it? How do you work through it? How do you bust through that wall?
You just do that. That's all. You just,
you just show up. The next episode.
Once I'm on, so I'm sorry, Nick, I cut you off. What?
I feel like you do the next episode, because I think the next episode isn't just an episode. It's a conversation, potentially with someone that you've already talked to. So you've already kind of made a relationship, right? So you're talking to a friend, or you're making a new relationship with a new person. And that, I think, is the thing that I think reinvigorates me every time. I know that, after every one of these conversations, Chris and I get off and we're like, dude, that was so much fun. That was great. So it's never the tiredness, the fatigue, or whatever that is during the conversation. It's never like that after the conversation. It's never like that in the minutes or the hours preparing for the conversation. It's usually somewhere in between. Right? Like in between those conversations where you're like, oh, you got to prepare, or you got to book, or you got to schedule. Like, that's the work of it. But just getting to the next conversation is what I know works for me.
That's interesting, Nick, because I do agree with you that it just occurred to me, and Adam, I don't know, maybe you can talk about this from your perspective, either pre or post divorce. But sometimes the thing that's pressuring you and making it not fun is all the externalities in your life, like your kids, your wife, some other responsibility that just happens to be aligned with when you booked your guest and the time you're going to have on it. I think also Nick brought up something else interesting, which is a great way, and this is for any podcaster out there, anybody doing anything, do the familiar, and that'll get you back into it. Because I do realize I may have done this subconsciously, but I have done what Nick said, which is when I'm starting to get that lull feeling, I just bring on a friend and they're my guest. And then it's like, okay, I'm not podcasting. I'm taking some time for myself. This is almost like self-care. Yeah. And I'm just catching up with a friend that happens to be in film, and we can talk about something, bring some value to the listener, but then I get to refuel. So yeah, kudos to that, Nick. I don't know, Adam, if you agree with sort of the externality being the stressor, or is it just the actual work of it for you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I never thought about it. Like, I'm sure it has to impact my mood and my energy and my enthusiasm. Yeah, of course. I'm currently. I mean, my situation has changed dramatically. When was the last time? Do you remember the last time we?
Like a year and a half ago.
It was only a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it wasn't.
So maybe. All right, may not be. So I
maybe
thought
2
it
years
was longer.
Ago.
What
was it? Did we talk before or after the pandemic?
Well, that's what I'm trying.
I honestly, time travel. I lose time because of COVID.
Right.
Like
No, it can't be before, because that would have been like 4 years ago. But no, but I've maybe since the last time, I think
Producer Papa Bear will tell us.
Yeah, if he could look that up, it would be fantastic. But I now have a full-time job. I have a full-time relationship. I'm living with somebody. She has grown children. I have also a second job. I'm consulting with the Woodstock Film Festival. I also do involved in other organizations. We're starting a comedy festival up here. I can't do that much for them because, I'm just not that funny. No, because I'm too over. I wouldn't be able to deliver
you'd be
enough.
stretched
So I
out.
have to be careful how much I promise my. But I'm just like, so the podcast at times feels like does feel like a chore. But you're exactly right how you describe it. Once I'm having that conversation, I get into that. I feel a high, and I feel excited, and I don't always look like I am, but I am excited. And then there's afterwards. I come downstairs, I see my partner. I have a smile on my face, and she asks, how'd it go? And I'm like, that was really great. Yeah, it was so connective, and so that's been really working lately. I also find, guys, that I am actually a lot more selective. I'm more thoughtful about who I'm inviting on. I'm trying to be less promotional, even though it's generally is still promoting, but I try to approach it like these are people I really want to talk to, or the subject matter is something I feel is important to talk about. And most of those work real well because of that. Whereas I think in the earlier years, I just was like, had more time. I had, I loved the technology. I loved learning. I was learning a lot. I went to graduate school doing this podcast on film. So and now I feel like I kind of have that degree, and so it's a different experience. And now it's like being in the moment and connecting.
So speaking of just film, like, can you just tell us what you're doing for the Woodstock Film Festival? And I don't know, I'm sure Nick is thinking this too, but we should also ask, do you still love film after all this? Like, are you in love with it even more?
Well, it just comes down to seeing those great films. I used to be much more, I was excited about the movements of film. Like, this is a wave of these types of films, and then, and there just also seemed to be this period where there was just so many great filmmakers making, and there seemed to have been a lull. The streaming has really kind of made it much more complicated, and that's sucked up so much oxygen. The conversation, it's unavoidable. But when I see a movie like Anatomy of a Fall, or
I just
Killers
watched
of the
that
Flower
last night.
Talk to me. We got to talk about it. Killers of the Flower Moon. I just finally caught up with. There's 2 or 3 other films that I watched this Danish submission. It didn't make it to the nomination level, but called The Promised Land. My girlfriend's Danish, so that was I had to see that. And in fact, I was on vacation. We went to the Palm Springs. I didn't make it into the festival, like to a screening, but I did go to where they were having the festival, just coincidentally, and I picked up the program. But they were literally just showing this particular film called The Promised Land. When we were, walking up to the festival, people were leaving, and it was just coincident. It was a Danish film, and so we just watched it the other night, and that was fantastic. It was called The Promised Land, actually. And so I've just been, I go again, like the podcast, I also go through cycles of really making a point of seeing films that I know are probably going to be really good quality. And then I get lazy for a while, and then I get unexcited about film, but I'm okay. I think there's a lot of good stuff going on, and I've seen quite a good films this cycle. So
you have those films that are still available out there to watch. You got to watch them. Like, it's just, you got to watch them. And why do you have to watch them? Because that's the audience that we're really speaking to, I think, more than anything. And that's like, those are the guests that you have on, Adam, is that those are, you hate to ever, I'm not going to say real. Those are like the filmmakers that you can touch. Right. And that's what I mean. Like, they're the real filmmakers, right? Like, I can't touch the folks who made Barbie, right? That's going to take, there's like 37 bodyguards between me and Barbie right now.
Well, I did throw a party. This is years ago now. I'll look it up. It was in the early days of FilmWax, and FilmWax was a film series and hosting before it was a podcast. Right before it started as kind of a film series, but I would also host events. And some of the events I would host, DVDs were still a thing back then. And when I would do DVD, I found nobody was hosting DVD release parties, and I could just do this, and I could make a deal with a bar as long as like guaranteed a certain amount of, So anyway, long story short, a early Safdie brother film.
Yeah.
So nice. I approached them. I set it up. They're a bit of a headache, but everybody from the whole indie film community showed up at this party, and
Yeah.
it was in Manhattan, downtown, Lower East Side or whatever. And Greta Gerwig came. It was like she was kind of on the rise for even then. Like I knew who she was. I'd seen her in everything. She probably. So that was fun.
That's
and I'd
awesome,
seen
dude.
her at a couple of other things. And she did the podcast once with Noah, or in tandem with Noah for, one of the early Francis Ha probably is my guess.
That's so cool, man. Yeah,
I just saw a review.
That's that real raw filmmaking. That's what I was just
by
talking
the way,
about, Chris.
Nick and Adam, I just saw a review of Uncut Gems before it came out, and it just scathed it. I think it was a New York Times review.
Huh.
And it's one of those things that, like, when you jump out the window on a film and then the world tells you you're wrong, it just doesn't age well. It just aged so poorly. And look, I don't know what you guys think about Uncut Gems, but like, I mean, I know it's polarizing, but I think the general consensus is that it's a great movie and that Sandler was fantastic in it, and the way it was directed kept you really on the edge of your seat and uncomfortable. Speaking of the Safdie brothers, but it's, God, I just read that review I just felt so bad. And I was like, man, you just lost in one article, you lost all your credibility. It's like, it's fragile like that. Like you don't get to review anything
it's like
else.
you said though, Chris, it's polarizing. So that person just happened to be on the other pole. Right.
I think you can write a review in a way in which you talk about the fact you didn't like the film, and do it in a way that saves you from the embarrassment of saying the filmmakers don't know what they're doing, or the acting is bad, or the writing is bad. And now you've put yourself in a place where you don't know what good film, you don't know what you don't know. Like, you don't know what a good line of dialogue is. You actually can't perceive a good performance when you see it. And that's really trouble, because, and I'll tell this to the filmmakers that are out there, people who are already doing it, have been in it for a long time, or are aspiring to do it, because me and you, Nick, we've been in position to give notes a lot. And one of the easiest things to fall into when you're giving notes is to assume that because the person that has given you, usually we're giving notes on scripts, assume that the person that wrote the thing is doing something wrong because they're not doing it the way you would have done it. And the more creative and the more ideation you have as a person, the easier it is to fall into that trap. You know how they always say it's easier to hypnotize a really smart person? It's easier to fall into this trap as a smart person, because when you're reading their work, all you're saying is, oh, I would have done this. Oh, they should have done that. Oh, I was expecting this. And now all of a sudden you don't like it because you can't see the world that they're creating, because it's different from the world you would have created. And you get yourself into a really bad way. I think watching a film also and giving notes on like a finalized film, or a film that's in post, but you're getting that early cut, like we sometimes get Nick to watch. Like you have to say, what are they going for? And then it's almost two kinds of notes, right? There's the note of, I liked it or I didn't like it. Like it was for me or wasn't for me. Right. And then there's the note of, you should have used a Steadicam there. There's the note of, this character isn't real to me, even though this is a satire. Because a certain amount of satire, the characters have to play a certain level of straight for it to be funny. And Adam, you can agree with that from a comedy standpoint or not. It's kind of like, okay, that's absurd. Like, it's not, it could be funny, but it's so absurd and it's so poorly done that we can't get into the joke because we know it would never happen that way, right? That's a different kind of note. And I just think you have to be careful when someone's doing something really cool or different, but you can't see it because, you sort of wouldn't have done it that way. And I bring that up, Adam, because you talked about Anatomy of a Fall.
Mm-hmm.
I watched that last night with my special other, my wife, and we watched
it. Be a
and,
bottle of something. Sorry.
No. I haven't, dude. I've drank one time in January.
Oh, so you were on was it dry January?
No, it wasn't. It really wasn't.
Going down that rabbit hole.
It really wasn't dry. I haven't made any declarations. I don't do resolutions. I just was like I just know that it was like I wasn't even drinking too much. I just felt like it wasn't part of what I was trying to accomplish from a diet and weight standpoint. I drank one time on our buddy's birthday, Jason McConnell, the writer Jason McConnell. On his birthday, I had a tequila and lime, healthiest alcohol you can have. And then I had one beer with some etouffee.
Adam has had that today, just so you know. So.
Adam had that in the last 15 minutes.
If we're going down this direction, I mean, yeah, we totally failed. We did cut back quite a bit in January. I mean, not that it was as we're all defending ourselves and not like we're overdoing it in the first place, but I look at it completely financially. I'm like, okay, let's see. Every day I'm not spending $20 on a bottle of wine.
That's right.
Anyway.
You're right. Yeah. The alcohol's gone. Like if you just go out and drink, wow, you have to spend so much money for the right to be around another human being when you drink that you don't know. Like that's the fun of going out to drink. When I was at the bar last time, Adam, there was it's 10:30 at night, Adam, on a Tuesday, and I'm at this bar. I think it was like Bar Louie or something like that. And I was at this bar, and there's a guy across the bar. He's got a laptop and a book. It's 10:30 at night on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And he's working. He's got a spreadsheet going. He's got a book, his phone. I'm like, dude, you've made this bar your office on a Tuesday at 11? This appears to be a problem.
Yeah, everybody's got their thing. Exactly. It's something else that you don't know about.
That's the old Al Bundy, where Al Bundy, shout out to Ed O'Neill, he had to decide between chocolate cake and breasts. He said Choco titties, Choco breasts. That's the solution. Just put them together. I'm like, Al, you did it again in your perfect Al Bundy logic. Anyway, Anatomy of a Fall. We're watching it. And at the very end of the movie, I don't want to give anything away. Amazing movie.
It is.
At the end of it, she loved it. So I just want to be clear. She turned to me and said, that didn't have a conclusion. And I was like, yes, it did. It concluded quite well. I said, so there's a part at the end where she thought a character was lying. That's all I'm going to say. And I said, you wanted that. That was the world you saw for the movie. And because they didn't do it, it didn't conclude for you.
That's
what I mean by the note.
Sorry?
That's what I mean by the note.
Oh, I was going to say that movie is an American movie. This is not an American movie. Right. I'm sorry.
There you go.
But it happens to be the case.
It's a great point.
And that's not any slur to on your partner, but we're used to this. I wonder. I could talk all night about anatomy of a fall, but I wonder, guys, men, can we have an honest conversation about Barbie and not get kicked? Kind of have it bite us in the butt.
I think so.
Can we talk about Barbie?
We've talked about it a lot.
Yeah, I think it's everybody's talking about it. It's one of those when even the pink sensation that was happening around Barbie, the guys were in it too. I mean, if you watched anything on social media, it was everybody was doing pink, right? It was not just this is a women's movie or whatever. It was like this is an everybody movie. Everybody needs to check it out. So yeah, I haven't seen any or felt any stigma associated with talking about Barbie. I mean, even Bonsai Joe was talking earlier about the fact that the Ken himself didn't want to be Ken, and there were and Margot Robbie was like, look, I'll give you a gift every day if you do this shoot. If you do this movie, I will give you a gift every single day. Right. And he's in it. He's in it to win it.
Well, I think Adam really doesn't mean is there sort of a stigma about men talking about it? But are we allowed as film people to say that Barbie wasn't good or bad? Right, Adam? Is that kind of the
I
spirit?
was just
Yeah.
like, I had problems with it, although I do feel like I want to watch it again, and give it one at a moment also when I can be fully present to, and really be patient and
Right.
and try to really view it again, and maybe get a different perspective, because it just wasn't like getting into it the first time.
Well, my
Well,
wife didn't like it.
I think
My
Nick's
sister-in-law didn't
wife and
like it.
sister-in-law famously,
Right.
I was gonna say famously didn't like it. Did you say they walked out on it, Nick?
No, they didn't do that, but
Okay, I thought they
no,
walked out on it.
no. And
My
then
apologies.
my daughter didn't like it either. None of them liked it. They were just like, nope, we
They
didn't
should
get that
watch it again,
movie.
too.
It was not
Yeah.
good, and they were like, nope. So yeah, it's I don't know.
It is tough, Adam. I get what you're saying. Like, it's tough to be on this island where a movie is universally loved. It is the #1 box office movie of 2023, and when you stand on that island and like, yeah, it didn't work for me. It is sort of putting yourself in that weird spot. But you're allowed to have that opinion. I mean, it's art,
but it's also
it's
being
subjective.
right. But it's, of course, but it's also like it's at least being positioned as a very feminist, right? Film.
Yeah.
Hey,
Right?
we've been here
And so
before, Adam.
if
We've
you
been here
not- if you d-
before. Do you remember Wonder Woman?
Yeah.
That was terrible. I didn't like it.
Well,
Exactly.
I know the
Love
second
Gal
one was-
Gadot. But
No, the first one was bad. The second one
Oh.
was terrible, right? Okay.
second one was
But-
really bad. Yeah.
But listen, but remember, it was the similar zeitgeist at the time. I mean, every woman in the world went to see Wonder Woman. Again, a little bit different because this one, Barbie, isn't supposed to be just for women, but is what it is. But the first one, it was very feminist. It was a big thing. It was like, this is the movie for women. And yeah, I saw that and I was just like, man, I can't with this film.
It hurt me deep because I grew up watching Wonder Woman, the TV show, with my sister. And so I was very nostalgic about Wonder Woman. I was excited to see the movie. I was personally excited to see that movie because it reminded me of my sister, Michelle. And she loved it. And we had those times together, and it just didn't meet that nostalgic sort of moment I wanted it to meet. But I don't know, Adam, what did you not like about Barbie? Can we just start there?
It didn't make a lot of sense, honestly, to me, and it was it looked like just it was trying very hard. But I maybe, again, I bring maybe my current state of mind to it. I mean, maybe I should have seen that movie in a movie theater. Like that might.
Oh, you didn't watch it in the theater,
right?
I did. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, I could see that with this particular movie.
Yeah, and I would tell people, if you didn't watch Oppenheimer in the theater, you've made a mistake there too.
Yeah, well, it looks like people are laughing, enjoying it as a group. You get your bucket of popcorn, you're having a good time. Maybe that really would have made it for a very different experience. So you're at
I think and having other people react is a very human thing, and then you start to understand and get a sense. It's almost like you're doing your own field study on human behavior and human reaction. And you can find out how far outside of the norms you are, the current norms you are. That's not right or wrong, by the way. It's just at some point you find yourself looking at people and saying, "Why are you doing that?" Like, I've become Larry David. Like, I've become a curmudgeon. I am irascible at times, and it's just because the world is changing and people are doing things that I despise. And I think generally we've lost our sense of shame. Case in point, the AI images, grotesque AI images of Taylor Swift that rolled out yesterday. I mean, it just goes on and on. Like, it's just like, I look at them like, what are we doing? Like, and I have become this irascible sort of apoplectic Larry David curmudgeon guy, and I'm okay with it. But when I go out into the world, I can see how far away I am, from that. Now, here's what I'll say about Barbie. I'm cool if you don't get it. Adam, what you said makes sense to me. Like if you didn't grow up playing with Barbies and you didn't have any connection to the movie, and let's say you got biased by stories in advance and you didn't watch it in the theater, right? And maybe you just felt like, what like the setup even, right? Was sort of too sort of on the nose politically and all these things, that's fine. And this goes back to what I was saying a moment ago about how to give a proper note and how not to fall into the intellectual trap of that's not how I would have done it, so therefore you're bad. Was it shot well? Yes. Was it acted well? It was acted incredibly. I thought Ryan Gosling stole the whole movie. Right? Like those things are part of what you have to look at if you are going to review a movie. So yes, maybe I don't like it, but I have to say that the filmmaking and the acting, the score, all of that was, I don't know, top flight.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair?
I reviewed films. I used to write reviews before I started the podcast for a few years, and
that's right. Who did you write for? You told me this before. Who did you?
Oh, I mean, yeah, a few different publications. I mean, online publications, and I would, and then I started doing some interviews for like I guess the most probably recognizable one is the Tribeca Film website.
Yeah,
we did do interviews. I wasn't reviewing films for them, but I was reviewing films for these other sites and had I'm sure very small audiences, but it was a good practice, Yeah. And even though I didn't love it, I thought, why nobody's reading me? I wouldn't even choose to read me. I reading,
Come on now, Adam.
There's some but I would compare my perspective to other people who I respected. And that was
who were your guys? Was it Peter Travers? Was it Siskel Ebert?
No, I never thought much of him actually.
Which one?
I mean, I grew up going to summer camp with Tony Scott, who is A.O. Scott, who used to be the chief critic of film critic. So that was one. There were a few other guys. I don't really remember Nicholas Rapold. There were a few and I would just sort of afterwards kind of compare and read their reviews and see where we've sort of overlapped or whatever in terms of our perspective of the film or what came up, which points and anyway. And but that was true, but because I could like or not like a movie, and it was rare when I would tear into a film. Like if I didn't like it, I would just try not to review it. But if I had to,
that's interesting.
I would try to always see as good as the perspective as I could and try not to tear it apart. There were only a handful where I was just like, no, this is a really manipulative piece of garbage. And I don't want people to make a mistake of spending a dime on that particular film. It's very, cynically made or whatever, But
what was the first movie you reviewed? Do you remember the first review?
No. It was some documentary, probably obscure documentary.
Yeah,
that was at the Tribeca Film Festival or something like that.
I guess because I'm thinking to myself, like there in the world of reviewing, there are people like I tend to remember Siskel, for example, growing up watching him. I loved their show. And it's a strange thing I was very young. It's a strange thing for me at that age to have loved like appointment viewing for me was watching Siskel and Ebert's review show. But he tended to be I would say someone who reviews negative. He's he reviewed
Siskel.
Siskel. He reviewed more movies on the negative side than the positive side. And I thought Ebert was the mirror of that, where he was more favorable to a film on average. It doesn't mean Siskel didn't have great reviews for movies, and it didn't mean Ebert didn't pan anything. But I do find that certain reviewers, like Peter Travers, loves everything, it feels like, for example. So
and he feels like he's writing for almost like a teenage girl or something.
Yes,
no disrespect to teenage girls, but he's like he gets excited about things that you're 70 years old. I mean, I don't know, just like it's bizarre. But I was never a big fan of his.
Well, yeah, because you felt like, at least for me, I felt like I wasn't sure if I was going to get an honest take from him. You know what I mean? Like, is this? Can I trust this review? Is what I would get from Peter. So And again, no disrespect to Teenage Girls, no disrespect to Rolling Stone, who he wrote, or no, and not to him either.
Right.
It's just he wasn't my kind of guy. I like Roper. Roper seems really objective. I know he's supposed to sort of carry the torch for Ebert, but I like those reviews. I love Metacritic, so I'm a big guy. I'm a big Metacritic fan. So I'll tell people, if you're not gonna like do an account on Letterboxd and really get 2 feet in, like be Metacritic instead of IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes, like because at least Metacritic sort of has a panel for users, so they can get a user score. And then they have a scoring system for all professional criticism. And then they can score that. And you can sort of juxtaposition those scores and say, it makes it so easy to find a movie to watch. They also do games and music. And, outside of my connection to NPR and W, I think it's WXMP Nashville, where I do sort of new music discovery. Metacritic is awesome. I mean, awesome for new music discovery, because when you go to their top 100 list, you're going to be able to pick those top 20 albums of the year. Half of them you hadn't heard of. So all of a sudden you're delving deep into indie folk because there's some guy or gal who had, I think Metacritic introduced me to Laura Veers way back in the day. Like, what a gift. I'll listen to Laura Veers.
She was married to somebody in like Drive By Truck or something. I only know a lot of this stuff now because I work at a radio station, and we are a truly independent radio station, and it's very diverse and eclectic, the playlist, or the music we play, but it's a lot of guys with depressive guys with
of course.
banjos, but there's also a lot of world music. We play a lot of blues, jazz, the whole nine. A lot of Nina Simone, a lot of but a lot of banjo guys, a lot of groups, Americana, whatever you want to call it, and it's great though. There's some amazing stuff. A lot of great singers, female singer songwriters. You never know, because you only get kind of like the top tier people that are played on mainstream radio. It's very hard to have the time to you have to love it, so you have to take the time to really dig it down further and find all those other amazing artists. But that's true in film too. It's the exact same thing, right? People watch Netflix, or they're watching Hulu, or they're watching Amazon Prime Video, and they're seeing whatever the top films that are algorithmically put in front of most people's face. But you got to take the time, and that's where, of course, I come in, where you come in, and we're talking about, at least I know I do, lots of films that hopefully people check out, but they're not necessarily. I don't need to do an episode on Barbie because
everybody's going to see that. Yeah, they're going. They don't need you. Nick mentioned how popular the Ken song was. Part of it is it's a great song, Disney level great. So great in the Disney way, right? Like not great in the sort of philosophically deep. It's not Sufjan Stevens, right?
No, but
it's a hook. And then a big piece of it is the marketing, right? Like the money spent to put the song on TikTok, so all the people that were the sort of the fans and the intended audience of the song would hear it. So there is some merit to that, but you're right. Like, what does Barbie need us for? But speaking of Netflix, I mean, I think they've done a good job over the last 3 years, sort of having Oscar-worthy films. The thing I don't like is that they don't put those films out in front of people. You mentioned the algorithm. They don't like I don't think people open Netflix and see Maestro. That's a Netflix movie. That's an amazing movie. And you can watch it on Netflix right now if you have it.
Right.
You want to see character pieces?
Nick,
watch
did you see it?
Did I see it?
I haven't seen Maestro yet.
Oh, Nick.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, really, I really enjoyed it.
I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. And there's they smoke so much in the movie. I've never. I guess people smoked like that, Adam.
Oh, the smoking. Yeah. Well, I also the guy that the director, his name is Guy Nativ, who made this film called Golda, about Golda Meir. I mean, I said to him, "What was the cigarette budget on that film alone? That had to be like a lot because she smokes nonstop from the beginning to the end, much like
Yes.
Leonard Bernstein does. You know,
Yeah.
like the cigarette budget had to be, unless it's like CG.
Well, I was going to ask either CG or have they come up with a better like a non-cigarette cigarette? So it looks like a cigarette and it smokes like a cigarette, but it's not really a cigarette because
these are questions. Yeah. This is an episode. This is a podcast stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Golda and Leonard and Maestro, we got to figure it out.
But
the Golda was with Helen Mirren, unrecognizable. So I think you probably saw something about it at some point.
It's well, I don't know how many of these Oscar worthy are, like, I don't even know if I should, describe them that way. How many of these movies have you seen this year? Is Anatomy of a Fall like your movie? Is that the the
jury's
best
out?
one?
The jury's out. I would say I would love the second half of Oppenheimer, or this, I found it actually. I would not choose it as my best picture, even though it will win it.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, there's no way it's not going to.
Yeah,
I thought Killers of the Flower Moon was better than that. So it's between right now, and I still have, what is it called? The Gravity. There's one more, the Nazi movie, but it's
Zone of Interest.
Zone of Interest. I don't know.
I love the Zone of Interest is such that is a it shouldn't win. It's not better than Oppenheimer. It's not better than Anatomy of a Fall. It's not better than a lot of the movies that, at least in my opinion, but it does something that none of the other movies do. It does something really amazing. And well, look, I don't want to blow anything, but the setup of it is. And have you ever been to Auschwitz in Poland, Adam?
No, I've been to one camp in the Czech Republic.
Got it. I went to Auschwitz. Producer Papa Bear was there with me, actually, and a big group of us. Yeah, we went this last year, and to go there is it's a. I hate to talk about like it's a vacation spot. It's not, but it is life changing like that. It will change your life. You can't imagine some of these dum-dums online that think that it didn't happen, or that it's all a tinfoil hat government ploy.
Let's not go there.
Let's not give them any.
Yeah,
let's
not. It's ridiculous because when you go there and you see how when you see the largesse of the camp, you just understand that this was a terrible. I mean, it is as big as, I guess, 100 football fields, maybe more. It's gigantic. And it's a gigantic place, and it's a depressing place. And in the movie, that seems to be based on a true story. One of the German command, Nazi command, and his family lived directly on the other side of the brick wall that I was there, saw as a real wall.
Yeah.
Directly on the other side. Their family had sort of a residential situation happening. And over the wall, you can hear the screams of victims. Right. Yet the mother and the children are living like they're in, like they're living in Santa Barbara. They're in Santa Monica. Right. They're like here's someone over here being tortured. Here's me making sure my grass is perfectly green, and look at the vegetables I'm growing. Here, come to our pool. They'd be inviting people. Look how beautiful the setup is. And it's surreal.
All right. Well,
it's a case study on compartmentalization that humans can do.
Yeah. So I haven't seen that, and I haven't seen the Yorgos Lanthimos, film. I haven't seen that.
What's that? What is it?
That's but here's where I'm blanking again on.
No, just with Google away.
No, with Emma Stone. Come on.
Oh, Poor Things.
Poor Things, of course.
Very polarizing.
I haven't seen Poor Things yet.
Very polarizing. Nick, have you seen Poor Things?
Nope.
No, you haven't seen. Okay, Poor Things.
I told you, I put my time into all those shorts, man. Like that's where I'm at. Like there's some of those, and the reason, and just to let you know, the reason is because I'm really like almost like 100% in. It's like 2 feet in on, I guess you call it just the indie filmmaker, right? And that's what you get when you watch those short films and the docs. You're getting people who are telling unique, cultural, and very personal stories. Whereas what you're getting with a number of the features, when we're talking about, you're getting a lot of adapted screenplays that come from stories that have been told, right? They're books, they're these things, these bombastic characters or bombastic IP, and I just don't gravitate to them now. So that's my thing. So I put a lot of time in watching the short films, and even some of the there's some series out there, some animated series that are just phenomenal now as well that I get into.
Well, the movie you're gonna like, Nick, is called The Boy and the Heron.
Yeah, no, that's the one. That's the one that's on my list.
That's an incredible movie, and it's just an incredible movie. It competes with anything else that's out there, even though it's animated. So do watch that for sure. Poor Things, you could almost view it as an animated movie. The costume designer should win an award, point blank, period. And if there's any pushback I give you, Nick, on your take on that, because I really agree with everything you're saying. I think it's totally fine. And Adam, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but it's like what that does is it sort of creates a demarcation point or wall between all the people who work in that creative side of film that would not have an opportunity in it. Like a costume designer doesn't have a whole lot of opportunities in sort of New York Times docs, right? Like they don't have that opportunity. There is no makeup artist. Those people don't get any consideration now. Adapting a screenplay is not easy. Like, so all those people are now pushed to the side. Like, I think we have to also appreciate and watch that work. Like American Fiction comes from this book called Erasure, and it's one of my favorite movies I watched this year. It's way up there. American Fiction.
Yeah, I think really it's about
and Jeffrey Wright is amazing.
Yeah, for me, it's like I said, it's just resonance.
And that's an indie filmmaker, because Cord Jefferson has never made a film before.
Turn the TV on. Yeah, for me, it's like when I turn that stuff on, or if I go to the theater, it's like, what is from my spirit, right? Like, what do I want to see? And I think for me, it's really about those raw stories from an individual perspective.
He likes it raw.
Cultural perspectives. But I think so. But there are stories that I like that are difficult for me, and I'm going to say this. So like. Again, I like cultural things, unique perspectives. I don't know if I'm going to watch Killers of the Flower Moon. I debate it all the time. Like I think it's going to be a phenomenal movie. Like the cast of it, it just seems like something that I should watch. But at the same time, it's very difficult for me to watch something like that because of the depiction of what's happening. Right? It is that realism. It is that Auschwitz. Man, I tell you, Boy in the Striped Pajamas sticks with me to this day, right? Like, I don't know if I'm ready to have that on my spirit right now, even though
it's fair. You got self-care. We talked about self-care.
You got it. That's it. That's my point. So that's why I kind of, and especially a short film, they can get you, they can teach you something, they can make you feel something. I'm telling you, this Pachyderm film, this animated short, it got all up in my spirit. But it was a shorter period of time, and I can talk about it. Yeah, I can talk about it and then move on. But to sit for 2.5 to 3 hours in Killers of the Flower Moon, that is, it's tough for me.
3.5, I think.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, 3.5.
There's a certain amount of misery, right? I guess that you're saying.
Yeah, and I think you do have to be like I go through again. We were talking about how we go through our cycles and our of enthusiasm in this, but also like when I can watch, so I'll go through periods of watching like foreign films. I'll just start eating up French films, Italian, Spanish, Korean, whatever, and then I just hit a wall, and I just got to watch like American lighthearted American films, and that's all I want, or just episodic or whatever. I don't know. You watch a lot of content. That's what happens.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
What's the
Unless
worst
you get
thing
paid
you've
for
seen,
it, and then which case, what's that?
What's the worst thing you've seen?
Oh my gosh, the worst thing I've seen. Oh, I don't. I don't even.
I was telling Adam earlier, Nick, on a little break we had. The only movie I walked out on was Freddie Got Fingered with Tom Green.
Oh yeah.
Now that's the worst movie I've seen ever, maybe, but. This year for me, I'll be brave for you, Adam. I'll start. Worst movie I saw this year was probably probably John Wick 4, man. And it looks like $1 billion, man.
Mhm.
It looks so good. Whoever does Foley in editing for that movie should win all the awards. Every award, not just an Academy Award, every award. Within the first 20 minutes of John Wick 4, you have to imagine that there are at least 15,000 Foley sounds that have to be edited and added.
Oh my God, right.
I mean, it is a masterpiece of editing, choreography, and Foley. The story, and the acting, nope.
Adam, I'm going to tell you, the worst movie that I saw this year was Uncut Gems.
Oh, wow.
It was terrible.
So it wasn't a
But that's not from this
year. No, you said the worst movie I've watched this year. It was terrible. Yeah.
I should have said from this year. I should have said from this year.
I'm joking.
Oh.
No, but what is the worst movie you've seen from this year, Nick?
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I have a worse movie. I don't, and because it's kind of like what Adam was saying. I'm very discerning. I don't have time to waste, So it's like,
you curate well enough where you know. Now we've watched some films from the indie world this year that we're not adding intentionally to this category. That wouldn't be fair to them because those movies were made for $30,000
or nothing,
right?
Right,
and Adam, or nothing. Adam, I don't know how many movies do you watch from like the indie film community. I know you do a lot of work in the festival space. By the way, festivals, if you do anything in film, just go to film festivals. It is so much fun just to go to random film festivals. Adam,
totally love that. I love that.
Yes, it's one of my favorite things to do. And Nick, I know you feel the same way. It's great when we can work there and pick up a little, a little per diem at the same time. But Adam, do you watch any of these like true indies, like less than $500,000 budget sort of?
Sure. Yeah. For sure, I do. I was just trying, and some of them really are terrible. I mean, I agreed finally to be on the committee. I can't because I work full time. Go to like Sundance. I can't go. I used to go every year to like 10 festivals. I can probably go to 1 or 2 or 3 if I really make a point of it. But now I'm also in a relationship, so if I have time off, you think I'm going to spend my days off on my own at a festival? No, I mean, it's we're traveling. We want to do something together. So if I can incorporate it here and there, that's great. But I'm not getting to festivals like I used to. Of course, many festivals have an online version, a component, especially maybe if you're press industry. But there's a couple up here. And this year I actually may make it to the Nantucket Film Festival. The woman who runs it lives up, is a neighbor of mine, and she lives nearby. And we have people we know there, and we may actually be able to. We have a place to stay, so I may be doing that, and that would be fun. I've never been.
Shout out to Jonathan Burkhart, who runs the Nantucket Film Festival up there. He's a friend of ours.
You know him?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
The Burkharts are right up our neighbors, and also, and the woman who actually her name is Mystique Bradbury or something.
It's very mystical indeed. It's got you all tripped up.
She's Bradbury. She has a very difficult name to pronounce. She kind of is the top dog there, though. But I think John was a founder of the festival.
He was.
Okay.
I met John in a hot tub in Puerto Rico. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, now.
Right.
Don't leave out any details.
Right. He's Adam got close to the mic. He got close to what? Say what? Right. Hot tub Puerto Rico. Let's talk about it. Right.
As the sun was setting on the beach.
Right.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. Anyway. Continue.
Yeah. So festivals, absolutely. I don't know. I mean, it's not like I am that precious about, not trashing a film. If I could think of something, but I really go out of my way to avoid seeing stuff that I think is going to be. So the only ones that I would be, if I wish there was like a mainstream Hollywood movie that I could remember, those I have no problem saying that was awful. Like John Wick 4. I haven't seen it, but I probably would have that reaction to it.
It's almost 3 hours long too.
I don't want to do that to an independent film because nobody's seeing nobody makes I've always said this for all the time I've been doing the podcast. Nobody goes into making an independent film like wanting to make anything but a great movie. Like this is their passion project. I won't say that about John Wick 4. That is just a pure cynical. Not saying it can't have entertainment value and great entertainment value, but it's made. It's a manufactured thing. It's got its own. There's nothing that it's presenting typically. So I don't have a problem criticizing that kind of movie, and nobody's listening anyways. but with the independent films, and then I do see a lot of ones that are really flawed, and I just ignore them. They don't make it into the festival. It was like, so I'll be watching some of those, I'm sure, in the next few months for the Woodstock Film Festival. But I also write. You asked me earlier what I do, and I also do. I write. I'll write synopses for the website for the program, and I'm not the only one doing that. And then I at the festival, that's when I get really busy because I'm doing their podcast live. We're doing. I'm also my radio station goes there and does interviews. So they.
I want to do that too. I want to do some live stuff.
Yeah,
love to
doing
talk
a lot of
offline
Q&As,
about that.
and I'm doing a lot of Q&As and intros for films. So it's great. It's a lot of fun, and I get to meet a lot of great people. It's like you said, it's a fun place to see films, and I used to love going to South by and just seeing tons of films, and
Yeah, in the festival, I got a question.
We got to go
about that. Yeah, we do. But I got a question about the festival. So Chris and we are jurors at a couple of different film festivals.
Okay.
And one of the things that we've talked about, and I know that I think Chris is pretty good about this, or routinely good about this, which is when we watch these films, we give notes. Right. We're very particular, especially when it comes to grading them, being very specific about certain things and making sure we're measuring them against each other.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know how many jurors actually give notes. And I wonder if you ever do that. And I was just thinking if that's something that we should be kind of advocating for. Like the films that don't get in the festival, do they know why? Right, like that's the part that I feel they need that.
Yes. Okay. So you're there just for everybody's clarification and people that may be listening. We're talking about two different things. One is being a screener or a programmer. You watch a film, you decide whether or not it should make it into a particular festival. When a filmmaker submits, or production company, whatever, submits a film, and they're paying a fee in most cases, not every case. They are they in return get a couple of things. One is you guarantee that someone is rooting for you is watching the film. The other thing is if you want feedback, you get feedback. Why the film didn't get in. So then a juror is looking at films that have already gotten in.
That's right.
Right. And one of the ways filmmakers come out of festivals with real currency is like an award, and it helps the film a lot to have those the laurels. Thank you. And then so as a juror, I don't know that you need to give feedback. You meet with the other jurors and you all vote on. You have to see all the films in your category, and then you have to vote on which you think should get the award. And the ones that don't, I don't think you owe them anything. So typically, but.
Well, Nick, I don't know if you know this, but one of the reasons I do it is for the other judges and jurors. Like, I want them to know why I gave this an 8 or a 4.
Right.
Like,
well,
so part of it's for the filmmaker and part of it's for the judge.
It's amazing.
Like look, if I can put this together in one or two sentences, why, like what worked for me and what didn't. And again, I've also sort of developed a different rubric. I do not judge an independent film that's in a small film festival or, like let's say just outside of the top, let's say 5% film festivals, right? I don't judge that movie the way I would judge a major motion picture that's going to have worldwide distribution. I just think it's a different animal. The resources are different. The way you have to, a lot of these films don't even hire a casting director, right? Like, so it's just a whole different world. Some of it's guerrilla filmmaking.
Totally.
So I look at it from a different light. And then I can say to the judges, like, so we had this in one of our things, Nick, before this last year where we were judging, and it was like, we were talking to another juror. It's like, well, yeah, but you're comparing it to like the best version of that. Right. Like at least there was one film like that for me. It's like, okay, you're comparing it to the best version of that, but this movie didn't have Ryan Gosling in it.
Exactly.
So we have to look at this a little different. And I am, we were talking about this earlier, Adam, about like, you review a movie. Are you mostly a negative reviewer or mostly a positive reviewer? You tend to skew over time. You one way or the other on average. I would say on average, I skew to the positive side. And I would just say because, 3 feature films in, a handful of short films in, you kind of know how hard it is to do and what kind of collaborative leap you have to make to get there. And so I end up having an admittedly like soft heart for these movies. And Nick has always been a great counter to that. That's why we're such a great 1-2 punch as jurors, because I think he on consistently will give something 1 star lower than I will on average on movies. And I have a rule where I never pick 7 because I think 7's the bailout number. 7's the number that, by the way, if for anyone listening, if you ever submit your script to a reader, a Hollywood reader, they will always give you a 7. He will always give you a 7. And if it's a 50-point scale, they'll give you a 35. Always. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. And
it's
7
the 50-point scales version of the 7.
Yeah, right. And you will get a 7 because
the 35.
The 7 is don't quit, but it's not good enough.
Right.
So what really helps a writer is it a 6? That means I'm pretty far away, or is it an 8? That means I'm real close. 7. Get the 7 out of here.
Get it out of there. Yeah. I think, but so here from my perspective, also from the juror, or actually maybe both the screener and the juror. So usually it's not just one person, right? So Adam, from your perspective, should you have that conversation up front as a team? What are we judging based on? What, that's what, because Chris, you and I have been caught in this because we feel like some films have been judged against Hollywood, and that's unfair at a film festival.
Some films have been judged against locality.
Exactly.
Oh no! This is a New York filmmaker. They need to win if they're in contention. It's like it wasn't the best movie.
Yeah, so we won't go there.
Familiar with that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so New York centric. Maybe that's the problem. But was a screener, which is not fun work. It's just not.
Right.
You get, I mean, I guess, it can be nice to get, maybe if you get a badge as a result of your work, or get paid. I did get paid by some festivals. And I don't do it for free anymore. I wouldn't do it for free because it's really not fun.
That's right.
It's a lot.
It takes a lot of time.
It's a lot of your time, and it's a lot of bad films or just flawed films. So, but I'm the only one seeing it. And if I kill it, it's dead. Nobody's going to see it.
That's right.
Now, if I say it's good and good enough, if it's a 7, and I'll pass it up to the programming committee, and they're the ones that are generally, they're making the decision, or the programmer if it's a small festival, And so I'd rather be programming, because you're soliciting films. You're going to Sundance. You're going to, the Hamptons. You're going to, whatever. There's a bunch of festivals, right?
Yeah.
Or if you're really lucky, you go to Cannes, or you go to Berlin, or you go to, TIFF, and then you chase after. Then you're dealing with a whole other thing. But there might be other people you go back to, and you hash it out, and you create that criteria you're talking about. Yeah. As a screener, most of the films, they're dying it with me if I'm a screener, or whoever the screener is. Right. It's dying with them. If they don't like it, 9 out of 10 times, that's the end of it for that festival. Yeah. And that's fine.
Plus those other festivals you mentioned, Adam, those are all markets. Whereas the ones where you're where the ones where you're the only screener, this is the end of the road. And I think sometimes as indie filmmakers, we convince ourselves that every film festival is a potential market. And while that in theory is true, in practice
or
it doesn't
in
seem to
theory
work.
can be, right?
Yeah, it's like the socialism of thought processes. Like it's great on paper, and then you try to do it. It's not. It just not doesn't work the way you want it to work because of human beings. They intervene. So so the same thing that happens at film festivals. Like all the horror stories of film festivals that we've heard from filmmakers where they meet sharky people all come from film festivals that aren't markets. But the filmmaker thought it was. It's not that it's going to be sharky, and it's not that it's that you're going to have a bad experience. Like I just said a few moments ago, there's nothing more fun than going to these film festivals. It's just a blast. It is just an absolute blast, and you see movies.
We should mention there are generally parties, and there are it's fun, and it's very social. So it's fun.
Social, yeah, exactly. Parties, drinks, all kinds of good times can be had.
Yeah,
and you could. It's almost like your own version of Wedding Crashers. Read into that what you will, but it's what the point is that it's a good time. But if you're a filmmaker, you do have to understand: is this a known market for deal making? Or is this the festival I could get into?
As a filmmaker, right, you need to know the festival, but you can always make deals, even if it's a small festival. It's a networking opportunity for filmmakers. There's no downside to going to film festivals as a filmmaker. You need to know which ones are really legitimate. Other than that, there's no harm. I mean, going to different film festivals because you're going to meet other filmmakers, you're going to meet other programmers, you're going to meet programmers, you're going to meet journalists, you're going to meet cinematographers and screenwriters. It's a fantastic place to expand your horizons.
Yes. And Adam, is that the primary place? Because I was doing having some conversations online about where people go. Like, what do people do to meet each other as filmmakers? Like, what's the best social for filmmakers? What are the best platforms? And I've heard a lot of people say, number one seems to be either making things to meet people, right? You're on a set, right. You're working. The second one being film festivals. The third one was like different meetups. But are you familiar with a lot of those? Like, are those really popping off, or like people doing meetups and getting together to talk?
I don't know. I mean, in a big city, you're going to get, where there's a film community. Yes, there are meetups. Like New York City, there were several different types of meetups. I used to go to a couple of them, but I'm not a filmmaker, but I would, be looking for guests or looking for, and I just like people that are in the film industry, and then, but I don't know. I'm sure there's, it may not be that typical in most cities because there just isn't much of a film community in most cities. Even LA, you're not going to. It's a whole other industry there, right?
Plus, everybody's in the industry. Like every time I go to LA, I mean, everybody's doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
No matter if they are or aren't.
I don't think it's that easy, but I think festivals are your best bet. And there are a few other types of film, event type things and screenings, film series. Go to them if you're. And almost every town and city now has a film festival, and year round they program film series and other kinds of events and parties and talks and all sorts of things. Get on all of your film festivals within maybe 20 miles, whatever your radius is, and just get on their mailing lists and go to events, and you'll start seeing familiar faces, and you'll get to know people, and you'll connect, and that's great. So
you got to be careful on those mailing lists, though, Adam.
Okay.
You end up on you sign up for like 20 of them, and all of a sudden you've just killed yourself.
I see.
Your life is over.
Or I thought you could say you end up on the Make It podcast or something.
Right. Well, look, I mean, hopefully, but if it merits it, warrants it, but the problem with email is that you have to curate it, because if you sign up to too many lists, then all of a sudden you're getting like an email from Walmart, and you don't know why. You're like, what? I didn't sign up for Walmart.
Okay.
Oh, they sold your information.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot to do. Yeah. But
so curate the list is what I'd say. Yeah.
But if you're right, you have to be cautious. Approach it a little bit thoughtfully. But if you live in Philadelphia, if you live in Nashville, or if you live in Santa Monica, or if you live in, I don't know, there's just different, like I was just in Palm Springs or wherever. There's a film community, tiny,
Yeah.
But there are festivals, and it's good to get on the mailing lists and know what's going on. So, but you're going to have to travel more in most cases, Austin is a good town, but there's,
That's really good
I was
advice.
told
though,
earlier
that's,
this week,
people
Nick,
need
that
filmmakers. They need each other, right? That's the
yes,
idea.
yeah.
You got to
Community,
build community, and that's
real
the way to do it.
community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Yes.
I was told earlier this week, guys, that the Newport Beach Film Festival is one of the best festivals in the country.
Okay.
Has anyone been there?
Yep. There
Has
you
anyone
go.
been to Newport Beach?
I'm on so many.
No.
All right. Well, I just didn't know because I would. If anybody out there has been to that festival, let me know why it's the best film festival. Let us know why it's the best film festival, or one of the best
Woodstock
in the country.
Film Festival.
I know it's a very rich place, but
Which one?
Newport Beach. But I don't know why it'd be a great
Palm
film
Springs
festival.
too. I'm sure they have a lot of money. That means they get a lot of great films, and because people love going to filmmakers want to go to those festivals where they get paid. They're getting a comfortable hotel room. They're getting rides. They're going to parties. It's fun.
Yep.
And so it's no doubt it's a good film festival, and they get good programmers at those places.
How do you guys do it at Woodstock, Adam? Like, do you guys put up a block of hotels for A-listers? How do you attract A-listers?
Oh yeah, there's a few that will get put up in a hotel, but mostly volunteer homes and things like that. They don't have that big of a, but it's a very now seasoned or whatever film festivals. Actually, we're having our 25th anniversary this fall, so it's a milestone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Shall we wind it down?
Well, I was going to say we better bring in Papa Bear for things we should know, and then wind it down after that. Yeah. If you have time, Adam, because I want to show your audience the best of the Make It podcast, and it wouldn't be great if they didn't know we had this wonderful segment with producer Papa Bear.
Let's do it.
So
let's do it.
But we'll make it we'll make it quick. We'll be brief. Producer Papa Bear, hit us with a thing we should know.
This is seasonal. We should all be able to get this. Probably Adam, more so than the rest of us.
He always says that, Adam. It's like the most obscure.
No, this is an easy one.
Who is in the world? Okay.
Who is the person who has won the most Oscars?
Now, I know that Scorsese has the most nominations of any director now because of Killers.
Yeah, he made that just this year.
But winning. That's my Charlie Sheen, Nick. What do you think? Winning.
Keep working on it.
Tiger Blood. Winning.
I don't know the answer. But I feel like it's a composer.
Oh, it's a tricky question. It's a composer.
Well, I don't know that it is.
John Williams.
John Williams. It's got to be John Williams,
John
right?
Williams.
Okay, I'm going John Williams with Adam. Yeah, John Williams, the composer. He's 90. He's 90 plus years old now. Well, kudos to Nick for bringing that up.
Spielberg, but he hasn't won anything in a while.
I'm going to stick with John. I'm going to stick with John Williams because I believe he's in his 90s now, and I want to say he's at least won 20 times. He won recently.
Wow.
I thought maybe not, but I know he's won at least 20 times. So that's my answer. Adam, are you going differently?
I'll go with John Williams. I think that's no. I think I'll go with John Williams. I think that's a great guess. I mean,
thank you, Nick, for the idea. Are you going to go with John Williams? Or are you going a different composer?
I'm going to go all three. Let's go.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Good guess.
We're all wrong.
That means we're all wrong.
And it's all my fault.
Walt Disney.
Oh,
Disney.
Wow.
22.
How many does John Williams have?
Do you have a list there?
Not really. Not.
Okay, because I would be wondering where John Williams might fall in that.
Yep, exactly.
I think Chris is close. 20. Oh, I'll look it up. Walt Disney holds the record for the most Oscars won by an individual, with a total of 22 competitive awards and 4 honorary awards. He was nominated 59 times throughout his career and received 1 award posthumously.
Right.
How did you
I'm
say
surprised
that?
he hasn't won more.
No, Chris, don't do that.
Did you just try to slide that in on his Papa Bear?
Yeah, no, let it go.
Post-human?
Stop
whatever.
it. Stop
I
it.
didn't say humorously.
You're right.
Yeah, whatever.
But yeah, we got to find out about John Williams. But that's that's 22, and then
it's remarkable.
59 nominations.
Maybe
59 nominations is remarkable.
Producer Joseph could look that up for us while we're talking.
Yeah, that's amazing.
We forget that because of what Disney has become.
Yeah,
we forget that the man himself was, one of one, right? He's like the Elon of his time in a lot of ways. I mean, like, we forget that he there's a drawing I have, and I might have editors pop it in the video, where he drew a mind map on paper of how he expected Disney to connect to everything, movies, theme parks, everything. He had it on one sheet of paper. He had it all conceptualized and conceived in advance. And it's all, he won on all of it came true. Because that's the hard part.
I did have on his niece on my podcast.
Oh, nice.
Abby.
Yeah. So we were talking about her last year because of the controversial film that what was her name? Megan.
It's Untitled now, right? It was
something in Baghdad. Yeah, it was a Sundance film. Yeah, because she invested in it and was she was gung ho about the movie. She was the first investor in, and because she invested, all these other people came in and invested. And then when the woke mob came for her, I guess is the story that the director tells. At least that's what she said on the Sam Harris podcast, Waking Up.
I've got your John Williams answer. You'll be very disappointed. He is second to Walt Disney for nominations. He had 52 nominations, but he's only won 5 Oscars.
Well, I'm not gonna criticize him for getting 52 noms though. 52 noms is great. He's like the Jim Kelly or the Susan Lucci. Well, not Lucci because he actually did win, but that's
a mirage. He does so much work. We think he's won a lot, and
5 is wait. 5 is a lot. Let's just 5 wins.
Let's not lose sight of that, right?
Yeah, let's not lose sight of that. Yeah.
Where's Meryl Streep?
I don't know. Well, producer Joe might can find it for us, but we also need to find the name of that movie that we're talking about here. I can't believe I'm forgetting it. It was a documentary. Sundance deprogrammed it. It put the filmmaker in financial peril. And it was very polarizing. And her story on Sam Harris's podcast was just that everybody bailed on her, not because of the merit of the movie, and this is the issue I had with it, but because of the opinions of Sundance jurors. And
Jihad Rehab.
Jihad Rehab, yeah. So we wanted to, I wanted to look into that and say, okay, well, what's the real
that
story?
Sounds, by the way, great
behind that.
Yeah.
I want to see that movie.
Exactly. Yeah. It's now called The Unredacted, I think.
The Unredacted.
And her name is Meg Smaker.
Yeah, Meg Smaker. And here's what happened after she went on Sam Harris's podcast. She raised, I want to say $1 million+ but his podcast basically started a GoFundMe for her or something.
Yeah, it was a GoFundMe.
They raised I think 7 figures in 1 week or 2 weeks. Unbelievable. So regardless of how you feel about the film, which is hard to separate, right? It's like listening to R. Kelly's music. Can you separate the man from his music? But it is a good story for an independent filmmaker, right? Like, she spent all of her money to make the movie. She was going to be broken and then blacklisted on top of that, and she still might be blacklisted by certain festivals and people, but at least some people saw it her way enough to, give her money. For independent filmmakers that we know, Nick, they don't get that opportunity. They don't get to go on Sam Harris's very popular podcast and get a GoFundMe and raise $1 million. They have to turn to their investors and say, hey, sorry. And that's a tough conversation. I mean, Adam, obviously you have opinions on it, like this film. After talking to Abigail Disney, like what are your
maybe
thoughts?
she didn't even
Well, I saw
mention
her.
it.
She made a documentary about her uncle and having that name. So that last year. So that's where she came on for that. I have not seen the other film, so I don't want to talk about it without seeing it.
Right.
But it does sound like, from what I would imagine, it just sounds like people that have, I'm guessing, chosen the wrong path and then figured out, turned around and decided, jihad, not maybe that's not so cool. I don't know. I haven't seen it though.
Yeah.
But Sam Harris is again, what is it? Controversial figure, and I don't know. But it's another episode, guys.
You got that right.
It sure is. It sure is.
I'm ready to do it on another episode, though.
Let's talk about that. We definitely have to do a round 3. Papa Bear, thank you for dropping in with a thing we should know. That is definitely a thing we should all know, and now the audience knows. The one and only Walt Disney, 22 wins, 59 noms, very, very impressive. And we forget that he was it's not Mickey Mouse ears. It's a real man that was very, very impressive and did some very, very impressive things in his time, obviously. Adam, tell us where the people can find you on the internet, on social media. And are you ever going to, you have your degree in film. Are you ever going to make a film? Have you made a film we don't know about?
I don't have a degree in film, but
no, you said you felt like you got a degree by doing this podcast.
You're alluding to what I said before you were listening.
We call that a callback in the
that's business. A callback in the comedy world. That's right. Yeah. It's good on you, bad on me. I was really close to finishing one, but I don't. Again, long story, but right before I was days from starting, and production, pre-production was all set on a short film that I had written right before the lockdown, the pandemic started. So, and then I moved. So I have since worked on a film set, but I've not made a film. I'm not sure if I have an idea for something very personal and pretty edgy that I say edgy. I just mean really personal, like no filters that I'm thinking about doing. It would be like a work of nonfiction. So that's something I'm putting off because it's kind of difficult subject matter.
We'd love to read it if you're open to it.
I don't want to make it too mysterious, but it's deals with family stuff, Now, people can find me quite easily. filmwaxradio.com, of course. And then on the socials, I'm not on X. Well, it is on, it's, I think it's still, I never use that. But it's on Facebook and Instagram and Filmwax Radio, search that. And my name, Adam _Schartoff or SCHARTOFF. Very easy to find.
Love it.
Reach out to me. I really like it when I get regularly people reach out to me when, and I really, really, appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you. You heard it first from the man, right from the horse's mouth. Do that. Go follow him on Instagram, Facebook. Find him on X and encourage him to send out some tweets and posts again and be, controversial and sartorial, all at the same time.
Those are those people that say those dum-dums you referred to before are on that.
Well, I heard it referred. I heard social media referred to today as the bathroom wall of life. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Like people get on social media and say things that you would read on a bathroom wall at a bar. Right. You know what I mean? And my friend, Scott Kimry, shout out to Scott Kimry. I hope his wife, Scott, if you're listening, I hope your wife's doing better. And I'm thinking about you, but he had this great idea for a coffee table book that was just high resolution photos of all the places around the country where people had written stuff on bathroom walls.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So whoever makes that, I would love a royalty. I know I'm not going to get it, but somebody now is going to make it.
That's a fantastic idea.
I don't have the time to do it, but yeah, you just go from city to city, the best big cities, and you take pictures, high resolution pictures, and then it's in a coffee table book. $1 million
Or just
idea.
ask other people, ask everybody to do it in the different cities and send it to you. I mean, what the fuck?
You scale it, exactly. You scale it, make it even better.
Make it easy.
Unless you can get like
you have a
publisher
QC problem there, right? Though, Adam, you'd have a QC problem. Like everybody sends you different levels of quality. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well,
He can sit on your coffee table. That's the thing. It'll sit on your coffee table, Chris,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You know, I would do. Yeah, that's a good idea, Adam. Right? If you want a coffee table book for your house,
And
hey,
yeah. And I'll inscribe something really, appropriate in the, on the title page or whatever, and send you both copies.
thank you, appreciate you. Yeah,
I love it. And so anyway, I digress. Film coming hopefully soon for you. Folks, go follow him. Listen to Film Wax Radio. There's almost 800 episodes for a reason. It's fantastic. To find me and Nick, really easy. You can email Nick at bonsai.film. He answers 100% of those email. He really would like you to join him on Reddit. Big engaged community there. Really simple. He's just Nicholas Bugs on Reddit. You can follow him. It's a great follow. You can reach out to me on X at Flame in Your Heart. Your is spelled UR, or you can just search Chris Barkley and I will come right up. I am also on Facebook, where I am posting full-length episodes of this very podcast on Facebook. So find me there. Just search for Chris Barkley or Christopher Barkley, and I will come right up. And then for this podcast, everywhere you can find it, Apple, Spotify, and especially our somewhat new YouTube page, just search for the Make It Podcast and we'll come right up. And so with that, Nick, can you leave us with the credo?
Following a pregnant pause. So again, Adam, man, thanks for being here, dude. We really appreciate you. Yeah, we love you too, man. And trust, like we keep talking about the 790 episodes, near 800 episodes, because I want you to know that, as you probably already know, that you broke ground that allows us to do what we do. So, you don't think about that, but I need you to know that, because that's how we think of you. And we think about the fact that you continue to do this wonderful service for the filmmaking community. Again, you're not, interviewing the Barbies of the world, but you're interviewing those people who might be the next thing, or whoever they are right now. We need to be paying attention and listening either to what they're creating or just who they are on their journey. And I think that's very important.
That means a lot. Thank you. I love you guys. I'm really glad. I hope we can do this more. I hope we can do this a little bit more frequently.
Yeah. Well, we can make it a thing.
And to our friends, family, followers, and fans out there, I'll say, be better, be creative, be engaged.
And thank you for listening. Nick, Adam, talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Peace.
All right. Peace.